Hi, it's Molly again today. I thought we would talk about something that a lot of parents have problems with, which is behavior problems in public. One of my biggest pet peeves, and especially since I'm with kids all day, is when parents give in just because they don't want to hear their kids yelling anymore, or when parents don't watch their kids and let them throw things everywhere. So, let's talk about some simple guidelines. Um, when I take the kids out with me, and I have a lot of them, I have four, and they age from 1.5 to 3, I set guidelines. So before you even leave the house, you let them know that there are certain behaviors that are not allowed. For example, screaming and yelling will not be tolerated. Throwing a fit in the middle of the aisle will not be tolerated. And let's see what else. I mean, just basic things. You can't throw things, you can't pick up things, you can't hit other strangers, you can't hit your sister or brother, that sort of thing. Um, so, whatever your guidelines are, you set them down and say, these are the guidelines, and we're going to try to do this. And then, if you want to, you can also set an incentive. So, if we go out and I don't have to talk to you at all or threaten timeout at all during this trip, um, we will go get ice cream afterwards or that sort of thing. Whatever it is, go play the video game you want. Don't offer, I wouldn't suggest to offer like a toy or something unless you're intending on purchasing it in the first place. And that sort of thing. But experiences, I think, are usually better. But or those little candies in the 25 cents machines and those sort of things. Um, so that's even before you leave the house. So then once you get in the car, this is one of my big pet peeves because I do drive with the kids. They may not scream in the car. That is a major problem. So don't let them scream. And if they do, I usually talk in a very harsh voice and tell them that this is one of those conditions that we spoke about, and it's unacceptable to scream in the car because it's distracting and we could get hurt. Um, Once you are in the store, let's talk about the variety of behaviors that can happen. If you have a 2-year-old, I am sure you are well aware of the tantrum. This is when the child, for whatever reason, wants something and you tell them that they cannot have it, and they proceed to throw themselves on the floor, screaming and yelling and kicking and embarrassing the heck out of you. There's a couple of ways to deal with this. It depends on why they're screaming. First of all, a really good approach to even before the temper tantrum is to not be like, no, you can't have it. A really good technique is to say no in a more less negative way, like, well, not today, or maybe later, or, let's talk about it when we get home and see if we really want that or we wanted something else, or, I'm sorry, honey, not right now. Another really good technique is to give choices. This actually works on most situations, even if you're not in public. And you tell the kid, excuse me again, you can say, we have two choices. One, I get this for you right now, but I won't get you A, B, and C later. Or two, we will get something else later. Or you can say, my favorite is, well, you can decide to throw a fit and get nothing, or you can decide to not throw a fit and maybe we'll be able to do something fun later. Anytime you give children choices, they feel like they have more power than if you just tell them no right away. You can choose any 2 options or 3 options, but don't give them like 12 options. Minimal of like 3. And if they don't like either of those options, then you said, I gave you a choice and you made a sad choice by not choosing any of the choices. So now it's up to me. Your choice was not to make a choice, so now I'm making the executive decision. I tell the kids all the time, This is not a democracy. It's a monarchy. And I get the last choice. So I will ask your opinion, and if you give it to me, and that's okay, and I would like to hear your opinion, but at the end, I am the queen and I make the choice. And they understand that after a while, that they definitely have opinion, they have a voice, and you like to hear what they have to say, but ultimately, they are not the person in charge of what happens. And they should understand that, because in every place that they're going to go, it is a monarchy. One person ultimately has all of the power. You can speak out, you can tell your opinion, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change anything. And so they need to know that they have a voice and that you're listening, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get what they want. And that's empowering for kids, just to know that you're listening. And it's good for later on in life, because they will not feel uncomfortable coming to you about different things, because they know that you have listened in the past and you will listen in the future, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're right. Okay, so anyway, they're having that tantrum on the floor now. You've given them choices, they've gotten angry, they're sitting there screaming, yelling, and you're totally embarrassed. Two options. One, you sit and stare at them, even though how embarrassing that is, and wait till they're done. And I always tell the kids, we're not going anywhere until you stop screaming. I'll sit here and stare at you till the day is long. I don't have anywhere to go. Or two, you can literally pick them up while screaming and yelling, take them to the car, close the door on the car, either sit in the front seat or look through the window, make sure they're not hurting themselves, and wait till they're done, because they will be done if you are not giving them what they want. And what they want is attention and people staring at them and you to be uncomfortable. So once that's over with, I always open the door and say, you done now? And they will usually say, yeah. And then you say, well, I have to finish my shopping. So either you can sit quietly in the cart and we can discuss if we can do what we wanted later, or you can throw another fit and I can continue shopping, and when we get home you'll have a punishment as timeout or whatever it is that you feel is appropriate. That's your choice, of course. This works a lot. All of the kids I take out are fairly well behaved. I actually have not had a temper tantrum, knock on wood, yet. In public. I've had temper tantrums plenty in private. So that is my strategy for dealing with the meltdown. The I want it toy meltdown, it's the choice situation again. And you'd be surprised how effective the choice is and how there is not an argument about it. Because once they get used to it, and I start when they're really young, they will know that those two choices are what they get. And if they choose not to make a choice, you ultimately get to choose, and usually they don't like that. So they get used to it, they get familiar with it, and when you give them that option, they will make a choice. And sometimes it's not the choice you would make, but you gave them two choices that hopefully you feel comfortable with. And when they make it, then they feel empowered, and you feel like you don't have to deal with it. So in no way ever should you feel that you need to get the kid something because they're screaming at you. The exact opposite is true. That is a perfect reason to continue to deny it. You are not getting that if you're acting like that. And I talk to the kids about their attitudes all the time, and you would say, well, 2.5-year-old doesn't know what an attitude is. Yeah, they do, and they know they have it. They understand tone of voice, they understand all of that stuff. And as long as you discuss it with them beforehand, when you look at them and say, I do not like the way that you are speaking to me right now. So if you want to change your tone of voice and change your attitude, maybe we can get along a little better. Believe me, they figure out real fast. So really, you need to be consistent. You need to be firm. You need to set out those rules. You need to follow them. And ultimately, you need to not be afraid of judgment when you're out. It's your child. You are making choices on how to raise them. It doesn't really matter what the checkout lady thinks or the lady next to you thinks or anything else. You're raising a responsible child in a firm but loving way, and it doesn't matter if they don't understand why you're ignoring someone that's screaming at the top of their lungs. It doesn't matter. You need to feel confident in the way that you feel. You need to discipline and speak to your child, and you need to make sure that you are not uncomfortable with that. And if anyone questions you, which unfortunately a lot of people do, you need to look at them and say, it's my child. I'm raising them the way I want. So hopefully that gives you some techniques and some helpful hints on working with your kids when they're out. I know it's always a stressful situation, but the more you take them out, the more comfortable they will get with the rules, and the more they'll know what is expected of them, and the more they'll know how to behave in public. So don't be afraid. The first couple of times are kind of scary, but once you do it a couple of times, they'll know how to sit in that booth and how to not scream at the top of their lungs, and you just need to make sure that they know that certain things are not acceptable and you will not tolerate them. So I hope that was helpful, and talk to you tomorrow. All right, have a good evening.